Okay, so location is one of the most important decisions when you're buying a home. And most of you already know that. And you have to figure out, and most of you will know fairly easily, if you want to live in the city or would you prefer to live in the suburbs or out in the country. But sometimes you can have an appreciation for both the city and the suburbs. And so then you really have to weigh the pros and the cons of each. So I'm going to tackle some of the pros and cons of both city living and suburban living in today's video. Welcome to my channel. My name is Cherilyn Williams. I'm a local realtor in the Chicagoland area, and I provide weekly educational content for home buyers who want to know the process and steps they have to take in becoming a homeowner. Now, if you are a first-time home buyer, you have come to the right place because I try to break everything down to you very easily so you can have full understanding of everything you need to know and you need to do to become a homeowner. And I would be so grateful if you could help me push this video out to the many other home buyers out there that need help by hitting that like button, comment, share, and subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate all of your support. Okay, so everyone has their own tastes and dislikes when it comes to living the city life or the suburban life. And some people absolutely hate city living, while there's other people that would say they wouldn't want to live anywhere else but the city. And that goes the same for the suburbs as well. So how do you decide which is the best for you? So I think there are two important questions that you should ask yourself when you're thinking about buying a home. And one is, what type of buyer are you? And what this really means is, are you like a first-time home buyer? Or are you an empty nester with children that have left the home already? Maybe you're a senior that is looking to downsize from a home you've lived in for 30 years. Or are you a young and active professional where you may have just graduated from college and you're starting a new career? Now, the second question I want you to think about is, what type of home do you want to buy? And how do you want your home to accommodate your lifestyle? Do you have kids where, good schools and having a big yard for your kids is very important to you? Or do you need to be around restaurants and shops right outside your front door in walking distance and other live attractions? And then you must think about, what about your job and transportation? Because by knowing where you stand with these two questions will kind of give you an idea where you need to start in looking for your new home. Okay, so now I want to dive into the pros and the cons of city living versus suburban living by looking at the lifestyle and housing aspects. Okay, so starting with the city lifestyle first. The obvious pro of a city lifestyle would be the action. In the city, there's always something going on. And if you are a person that doesn't like to sit still or be a homebody, and you love the energy and vibrancy of people always around you and plenty of things to do, then the city lifestyle would be great for you. And if you live in a big city like here in Chicago, there is always something going on all year round. And especially in the summertime, it's just crazy here with activities. There's always some kind of festival or some type of sporting event. And here in the city, it's just a lively place. You also have the convenience of city living where you can pretty much just walk right outside your front door and be anywhere you want to be. If you have your favorite restaurant, which is just a few blocks away, as well as other important places that you like to visit, many times they're in close proximity to where you live, where you don't even need a car at all. And many people in the city choose not to have cars because it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have a car when you can just hop on public transportation, which is usually very inexpensive, and you can be anywhere you want. It just makes a lot of sense. And let's not forget to mention, you're saving a lot of money by not needing to, pay for gas and repairs and maintenance for a car. And of course, parking is always horrific in the city, and it's one of the worst things to think about. So having a car a lot of times does not make sense. Now, not having a car means you're either going to walk, you're going to take an Uber or a bus or train, which would be less money than driving everywhere. And what's great about public transportation is that it runs constantly all day and sometimes all night. All right, so one thing that's great about the city is the cultural diversity, where you can meet many kinds of people from everywhere. And people speak different languages, and you can learn so much about people's cultures, like their foods and their customs, which allows you to be educated and to learn how other people live and experience life outside of your little box that you're used to. And it's just an awesome way for you to be social and network with different people from different backgrounds as well. Now, as far as schools and and education in the city. Sometimes city or public schools aren't rated as high, but that's something you will really need to investigate on your own, and you'll need to do your due diligence on finding this information out about the schools, because there are some neighborhoods that have, really great schools, but a lot of times the public city schools are a little bit lower. But in the city, you do have other options like charter and private schools if you don't want to send your kids to the public schools. In the city, many times you can find major universities and community colleges where students from all over the world flock to these schools to attend. And often when these students graduate from college, they will remain in the same city where they went to college to start their new career there. Another pro about living in the city are the job opportunities. Most times cities are economic hubs of business, and a city provides a wide range of career opportunities. You can have, a startup company to your major corporations in cities. And if you need a job, being in the city will open a lot of doors for you. And having a job in the city also segues into you being paid more of a higher salary when you live there. Additionally, if you have a job downtown, you may like the idea of buying a home closer to your job in the city. So it's just a convenience thing as well. All right, so let's talk about the cons of a city lifestyle if you're thinking about buying here. The first thing is that the cost of living can be outrageous. From the cost of buying a home to eating out, it can be more expensive. And if you like to be in the heart and in the center of downtown, you can expect to pay a lot more money for a home than if you lived in the suburbs. And sometimes you can find little neighborhoods that are in the city, but right outside of the downtown area where it's a little less expensive. But ultimately, you're going to be paying a premium price to be in the heart of the action and having access to everything that a city has to offer. But if you are financially in a stable position to live in the city, it can be a really great and fun place to live. And of course, you have all the noise and the sounds of the city, like cars zooming by and emergency vehicles, which all of this can get pretty annoying after a while. And sometimes that really just depends on where you live, because there are some quieter neighborhoods around the city too, but generally speaking, there will be more noise in the city compared to the suburbs. Also, another con is that there can be more overcrowding of people, which can make the city dirty, and with cars and buildings emitting fumes and other things into the air. And then you have the overcrowding and being very close together with people. You can have a lot of air and noise pollution. And sometimes things in your life change, where at one time you may have liked the idea of living in the city at first when maybe you were younger and you didn't have any kids. But as you get older and you want to start a family, you may find that you have entirely outgrown certain things about the city that you once loved, and you would prefer a much quieter life in the suburbs. Now let's talk about the pros of living in the suburbs. So of course, a lot will be in contrast to the city. So if you enjoy more of a quieter life where you can hear yourself think when you come home from work, or you desire a peaceful setting with not a lot of people around and noise, living in the suburbs is going to be your cup of tea. People that don't like the suburbs usually say it's just so doggone boring with nothing to do. And for some of you, that's fine and you can live with that. But for others, it's just like, no way. And what some people like to do is buy their home in the suburbs right outside of the large city, but then they have the city not too far away if they want to drive and do, fun activities and things in the city. So it's kind of like you have an option where you can get the best of both worlds whenever you want. And that's what a lot of people like to do. Another thing with the suburbs is that you get a lot more space. You can buy a larger home that has more square footage with a nice sized yard with trees and has loads of privacy. And you don't have to be right on top or seeing your neighbors all the time, which a lot of people value. Another great thing is that homes in the suburbs are usually less expensive because they are farther away from the city as well. In the suburbs, you will most definitely need a car because a lot of places you want to go may not be in walking distance. But what's great is you don't have to worry about parking. In the suburbs, most places of business have large parking lots where you can park your car, which is a major advantage compared to living in the city. But one thing with the suburbs, there's far less transportation services compared to the city. So you will definitely need to have a car to get around. Now, what you may also like about the suburbs is the sense of community, where many towns have local programs for your family and things that your kids can do, like at the local park district. You can do year-round activities and programs that you can enjoy. Also in the suburbs, you and your neighbors are more likely to know each other and look out for one another than in a city. In the suburbs, you can form closer connections with your neighbors, and it may make you feel that you have a lot of communal support. Like, for example, when your neighbor is looking out for your house, when you go away on vacation, or if something happens in the neighborhood, everyone can kind of rally around one another and feel supported. Now, the suburbs, they usually have excellent schools compared to the city, and many families value an excellent school system and will pay higher tax dollars so their children can go to some of these top-rated schools in the suburbs. And for some families, they value the schools more important than they do buying the home when they're looking for a home. So that means that they really value their children's education. So the last thing are the cons of the suburbs. And obviously, if you don't like the quietness of the suburbs, then this is a place you don't want to be. If the vibrancy of the city and being able to always be doing something or seeing something is important to you, then the suburbs will not be a good place for you. I know that sometimes when the city people come to the suburbs, I've heard many of them say, you know, it's just too darn quiet out here. I can't hear anything. I don't see anything. And I could not stand to live out here. And you know, that's really all a matter of preference. But it's really funny to hear people say that aren't used to it. Now, of course, getting around to places means you will need to have a car, which means you'll have to maintain gas, repairs, and maintenance regularly, which is more money. And you will find it's often difficult to find many options of public transportation that can take you around. Now, if you drive into the city for work, you may have to deal with a lot of traffic and longer commute times. So having a car is going to be very important when living in the suburbs. In the suburbs, there's also not much to do in entertainment when it maybe, you know, comes to nightlife, dining, or shopping. And you won't have as many job opportunities in the suburbs as well. Now, there are some suburbs that may have like a little downtown area with little shops and restaurants where it kind of feels like a miniature city, which is nice for those of you who would like to have something to do and it feels like a city. But a lot of times these suburbs don't have those kind of towns. Now, suburbs also tend to have less diversity in people, and in some areas it can seem very homogenous. So having a cultural experience can be limited. And because suburbs are so spread out, it can seem like you're in social isolation with no interaction with people. And this really depends on where you live, because it's obviously not like this in every suburb, but it can feel like a weaker sense of community compared to the city. So these are my pros and cons of living in the city, and this will be important for you to think about when you're buying a home. And if you're thinking about buying a home, which do you prefer, a suburb or a city, and why? And share it in the comments. And once again, for tuning in. Take care.